And now to induct Bob Backlund into the WWE Hall of Fame, one of his biggest fans, and I'm one of her biggest fans. Ladies and gentlemen, Maria Menounos.
Hello, everyone. Of all the great things I've experienced in my career, to be here is perhaps the greatest. To induct anyone into the WWE Hall of Fame puts you in the company of the greatest artists, athletes, and performers in the entire world. I challenge anyone that disagrees to show me another kind of entertainer who can recite monologues in character without the use of teleprompters and before world audiences while flying through the air and taking bumps 300 nights a year. I do. I have so much respect for these guys. But for me, tonight is even more special. For I'm not just inducting anyone into the WWE Hall of Fame. I'm inducting someone who encapsulates the word champion. Someone whom I'm a great fan of. Someone whom is my friend. Growing up Greek and not speaking English, wrestling was one of the few things on TV I'd be able to watch and understand. I was 5 when Bob Backlund lost his title to the Sheik. I was 14 when Mr. Backlund returned. I was 18 when I met Bob in person, and I remember being in awe. It was on the set of my first movie, and Bob was literally the most positive and striking force I've ever encountered. He was funny when we needed laughter. The man has an incredible, underrated sense of comedic timing. And strong when we needed support, and sensitive when we needed a friend. And there's no better friend to have, as evidenced by Bob showing up to support me at my Miss Massachusetts USA pageant a year later. When I competed in the pageant, I remember being so nervous on stage, kind of like I am now, until I looked out into the audience and all I could see was this giant bow tie, these wide shoulders, an amazing posture, and this huge smile. And any nerves I had were gone. While working on Bob's congressional campaign, a story came up about the Iron Sheik and his Persian clubs. The Iron Sheik apparently had an exercise where he would swing these heavy wooden Persian clubs behind his back, and he toured the nation's gyms with the clubs, and apparently no other strongman in the country could perform the exercise except for Bob, who did it on his first try. Come on. When I asked Bob how, he told me, when you believe you can do something, you can. The next day, Bob said he was going to perform an exercise of his own, the Harvard step test in front of City Hall on his election day. 20 years earlier, Bob set a personal record doing the step test for 2 straight hours. The goal was to match that. Of course, we all thought he was crazy. He was well into his 50s by that time. Bob was not able to match that record. He made a new one. And it wasn't 3 hours. It wasn't 4 hours. He did his Harvard step test for 8 straight hours. 8! I couldn't do it for 8 minutes. Once again, reminding us all, if you believe you can do something, you can. When I did Dancing with the Stars, I had broken feet and ribs and 0 dance experience, but I just kept going back to Bob's words. If you believe you can do something, you can. And whether it was dancing, wrestling at WrestleMania last year, or just making it in Hollywood, those words have literally served me throughout my career. Speaking of Hollywood, one of the first days I was hosting the Today Show, John Cena and Vince McMahon happened to be guests. Of course, I was excited because I'm huge fans of theirs too. But I couldn't help but threaten John that Bob would come back one day to put him in the chicken wing. They both had great things to say about Bob, but I'm sure they thought I was a little nuts, as people have thought Bob was a little nuts. But along with everything else Bob taught me, it's okay to be a little nuts. I'm sure people thought Bob was more than a little nuts, however, when after an unprecedented 5-year run with the title, he refused to turn heel. He believed it would let down his fans, which included many troubled youth who had looked up to him, and in those days it would have. In so doing, he surrendered millions of dollars from the new age of rock and wrestling, as well as the career he loved most. Not only did Bob Backlund hold the title for almost 6 consecutive years, he did something perhaps even greater when he made a comeback a decade later. He completely reinvented himself and his character. And when you think of performers who've been able to successfully reinvent their characters, you can think of very few. I mean, I know I racked my brain trying to come up with some names. Bob not only created a new persona, he also went on to become wrestling's #1 heel and regained his title in one of the most successful comebacks in sports entertainment history. But most people know that. Like the greatest champions, Bob Backlund carries himself with humility, which is why many of the facts I'm about to reveal are not known. In a Pennsylvania match against Hulk Hogan, whom he pinned on several occasions, Bob Backlund picked Hulk up over his head with one arm. It's a feat Hulk and his own late father often reflected on in astonishment. Bob Backlund has only been to the doctor twice since 1973. Bob Backlund has never done a drug. As he says, and I quote, "I wouldn't know what to do with them." Bob Backlund, within a 3-month span, won the NCAA Wrestling Championship and the National College Football Championship. He's perhaps the only man in history to hold that distinction. In that championship football game, Bob Backlund recorded 22 tackles and 2 fumble recoveries. Now, to give you a little bit of perspective, a team averages about 65 plays in an entire game. Bob Backlund was a top shoot fighter, if not the top shoot fighter in the world of professional wrestling. Bob Backlund intentionally never squashed his opponents, as he believed it would harm their future earnings. Bob Backlund is in better condition than 99% of men a third his age. Bob Backlund created and has been doing a basic low-impact workout regimen for the past 4 decades that was years ahead of its time. Bob Backlund also has a diverse portfolio of stocks and real estate. Bob Backlund has never in his life paid a dime of interest. Bob Backlund has a beautiful wife and daughter. And at the end of the day, Bob Backlund just wants to help others in need. Bob Backlund is simply one, if not the greatest personal success stories for wrestlers, fans, and people in general. I know it wasn't always easy in your career, Bob, but in the face of shortcomings and disappointments, you never gave up or succumbed like so many of us understandably would. Instead, you continued working out, educating yourself, and always helping others and donating your time to charity. Through it all, you kept your faith and your resolve, and here you are on the greatest stage being honored by your greatest peers. I'm excited for you tonight, for your book being published, and all the amazing things you remain to accomplish in your journey. And I believe there is one more run in that journey for you, Bob. Because when you believe you can do something, you can. Some know you as Bob Backlund, others as Mr. Backlund. I just know you as my champion, my hero, and my friend. Thank you to the WWE for allowing me to come welcome to the stage Mr. Bob Backlund.
Maria, thank you very much. I've known her for a long time, and she's a lady's lady, and I have the utmost respect for her and what she does. And it's for me to be here today, it's an honor because of the other people that are in here with me. You got a man by the name of Mr. Bruno Sammartino. In 1977, he was in the arena, at the Philadelphia arena, where they were doing television. And it was the first time I met him, but I didn't know him. He wasn't special to me. He didn't walk on water to me. And I wasn't special to him either. It's the first time he never watched me wrestle before. He never seen me live before. I respect Bruno Sammartino because he paved the road for guys like me. And over the years, I got to know that man very well. And I got to know what he stood for. And he doesn't go and take the easy way out on things. He works hard for it, and he doesn't give up. Right, Mr. Cena? Never give up. I don't care if you boo or not. You can't give up in life. If you want to be successful, you got to believe in yourself, and you can't question yourself. If you're making up excuses, do you think Vince McMahon made up excuses to get here? He believed that he was going to control the world in professional wrestling, and he did it. And when you're going to get that kind of power, when you get that kind of power, somebody's got to get hurt. And that man is standing up here, and I didn't understand it at the time. I thought I was family. Vince McMahon Sr., he was looking for an all-American boy back in the 70s. Guess who fit that in the world of professional wrestling? I want to go back to my childhood now and tell you where I came from. I came from Princeton, Minnesota. It's a little town in north of Minneapolis. We had an outhouse. We didn't have indoor plumbing when I grew up. We went out and pumped the water and put it in a pail, brought it in the house, and drank from a dipper. And when you had to go at night, you had to go down to the outhouse. But we had a lot of love in our family. We didn't have much. We worked out. We had a root cellar. It didn't have cement on it. We put the potatoes down there so they would last longer. And I didn't know that we didn't have a fancy lifestyle. When I was growing up, I got into amateur wrestling. And Mr. Cena, this is about never giving up. I got into amateur wrestling when I was about maybe fifth grade. I lost every match I had. I was getting mad at myself. The coaches told me to quit. They told me to get out of the sport. I should have. You know what? They told me to get out and not come out again. You know, but I got excited when I learned when you lose, you never lose unless you quit. And I started bugging the coach after the matches. Why did I lose? And I started training. In my first exercise machine, there's a lady by the name of Mary sitting over there, and she can stand up if she wants. We didn't have any money, but I laid in the doorway on my back, and she sat on my feet, held the doorway so she could keep her balance, and I'd do leg presses with her. And pardon me? Yes, sir. Anyway, the next year I made my first dumbbell. I had 2 5-gallon pails. I filled up one with cement. Put a 2-inch pipe in at Triple H. Drove it in there and let it set overnight. Tipped it upside down and put the other end. Filled the pail up, put the pail in, or the bar in the pail. Now I had my dumbbell. 85 pounds. 185 pounds, I should say. That was my second weightlifting machine. And when I became a junior, a sophomore in high school, I still was losing a lot. Then I started really training because I was getting a little bit better. I felt better. I was getting my confidence. I was starting to believe in myself. The next year, I won all my matches. Nobody scored on me the whole year except for penalty points. The only one I lost There was the last match. I was going for the state championship, and I'd worked very hard all that year. Vern Gagne talked about me on the AWA. They put my name in the paper, and I read all this stuff. And coaches were telling me, you're going to win. I started believing it. I did literally start believing it, and I thought I didn't have to work anymore. I thought it was just going to turn it over to me. And I wrestled a guy in the finals. He was a substitute wrestler. He destroyed me. And I didn't cry till I got down to the dressing room. And it hurt bad because I let my mom down. I let my family down. Everybody was in St. Cloud State University that year from Princeton, Minnesota, and I let them all down. It's the worst thing that ever had happened to me in my life. But you know what? Right now, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And the why I say that is, after that, I don't give up! You never give up! I lift weights hard every day. I work out harder than anybody in this building. And I don't care who wants to argue about it. You got that. And don't talk back to me when I'm addressing you. JR, you got that? Sergeant Slaughter, you whipped the heck out of me. You left marks all over my body. My wife was mad at you when I got home that night. Do you remember the last time I was in this building? Do you remember Vince McMahon interview me in the ring out there? I don't either. But it was a riot. I was Mr. Backlund big time. But I was still doing good things. You know, I didn't say something, but Mr. Scolin's wife is sitting right there. He was my manager. She's beautiful. She gave me a hug in the back room. And her husband was my dear friend. And I was going to do that before anything else. But I speak extemporaneously. And Mr. H, that's not funny to me. You're laughing. I'm laughing too. I have a brother sitting over there. I wish you would stand up. He has two children, Jill and Jeff. And I wish they would stand up also. Jeff, come up here, please. There's another man sitting out here. He's a 220-pounder from Connecticut. And Connecticut's not the top of the world as far as amateur wrestling, but he went down and beat up everybody from New York and Pennsylvania. His name is Cavanna, Andrew Cavanna. I wish you would stand up. Mr. H, look at him close. Mr. H, I do an exercise with people to see how strong they are. I did it with him, and he won. I've done that with all the MMA guys and the UFC and all the martial arts guys. I was in Tropicana. They were giving out awards for everybody. And they couldn't pull me. This man did. In my basement. And he's going to go to college after he wins everything at the high school level. He's got one more year. But anyway, I'm done! Mr. McMahon, I needed a signal. Anyway, cross-faced chicken wing, young man. Anyway, I love all of you. I love life. I think the family is the most important unit on the face of this earth. I don't think government can fix it. I think you can. And I don't care if they don't want me to have a good day or not. I'm going to enjoy myself, and I'm going to keep fighting. And I know Andrew Cavanna is going to get better every day of his life, and he's not going to regress. Thank you, Triple H. He said he'd do it, but he's got a big match tomorrow night, and I respect him for it.
I am not ripping my pants on this stage.
Okay, you got it. Good luck tomorrow night.